Made up his own inaugural ball, did he?
He was overscheduled today, as often happens. Okay, we're ready to go whenever you're ready.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We're made up his own ball. We're gathered to talk about the traffic calming issue on Melvin Avenue. When last I checked, the mayor had asked that we call a town hall meeting, and unfortunately, it's unfortunate we don't have more neighborhood participation this evening, but it is what it is. So let's talk about where we would like to place. I mean, what have we done? Where are we now? Have we decided on any type of particular calming? Where would we like it on Melvin Avenue? There were two corners that I thought were most likely were probably the best ones, but that doesn't mean everybody else thinks that way. And I think I speak from the city when I say that I'm pretty much all ears. So Dave, you're the city manager. Want to take it from here?
Sure, yeah, and I think we would be best served by us from the city being all ears, but just by way of background, we had a meeting out at the site back in, I guess it was November, maybe early December.
November.
It was a cold, windy night, but we met out on Melvin and looked at some of the intersections and Rebecca, I think you were there, right? So we went with you.
I actually, I was out of town, so I wasn't able to join that night, unfortunately.
But we talked about the different locations that we might put it at and what the configuration might look like, and we can certainly review that. We've got both Lisa Greco, who's and she hates when I say it, but she's our traffic engineer.
I wasn't at that on-site. I wasn't invited to that on-site, so.
Sam Bryce, our head of engineering, and Mike Johnson, who's director of public works. So we can talk about the background of sort of what this setup would look like, and the intersection that we looked at. And I know that there was a lot of interest in doing something at Annapolis Street on Melvin, and I guess we're a bit concerned about doing anything there. So we'd be happy to talk about that more, but that would probably be more at the bottom of our list and some of the other intersections higher on the list. But
so I will just, I'm just going to throw out that at some of the West Annapolis master plan meetings that we've had with the city's consultant, the Melvin Annapolis Street intersection is like universally described as problematic. I don't know that traffic calming is the right solution for there, but I just wanted, I just want to have it on everybody's radar that there is concern in the community about people not realizing that that's a four-way. I'm sorry, that that's just a two-way stop. So, again, not relevant to this discussion that we're having tonight, but I just wanted to get it on your radar since it is so frequently brought up as an area of concern.
yeah, and I think it would be useful for Sam to talk a little bit about what was tried a few years ago. It was longer ago than 10 years. I've been here 10 years, and it was before my time. But Sam, do you want to talk about what was done in the past on Melvin for traffic calming?
I'm going to say no. It was long ago. I have to remember what trying to kind of put a number to this. I want to say it was probably in the late 90s that in response to the Wardour Community Association's request, we went out and did a pilot program of traffic circles at two intersections. And my recollection is that it was Tolson and Shiley, but I could be wrong about that. I'm sorry, not Tolson, Shiley. Tucker and Shiley. We did that using barrels and signage. It was one of our first efforts into this process. The community association did the notice to the residents about it. We did not do that. We agreed with a date when we would put it out. The community association did, I believe, very poor communications to the residents, because we immediately got lambasted with people who wanted to know what we were doing, why we were doing it. What we found was there was great resistance in the community to it. They would actually go out, take the barrels down, move them around, put them in the middle of the street, complain that they couldn't drive around it. We ran the test for, I want to say, about a month. At the end of the month, the conclusion was the community did not want it, and we took the barrels down. The traffic circle itself was probably about 20 feet in diameter. It may have been smaller, may have been closer to 15. We had modeled it on the traffic circle, or what is probably more correctly, the mini roundabout that's in Indian Hills, which was one of the first traffic circles that Anne Arundel County put in, which is about a 25-foot traffic circle. But we need a little bit smaller circle because of the location. As after that, we looked at some other traffic calming attempts. One of those, which is what you see out there now, one of the complaints was there was so much pavement available, people were speeding. And so to reduce the pavement, we did something very similar to what we did on Bay Ridge Avenue, which was we put a bike lane on either side there to shrink down the visible surface of the roadway and reduce the speeds. One of the things that I think you see in many cases with the traffic calming is the reduction in speed is not that great. Usually the traffic calming pulls speeds down about 3 miles an hour, 3 to 5 miles an hour, if that. And that's consistent with what we saw over on Bay Ridge Avenue when we put the chicanes in over there. Traffic speeds came down about 3 miles an hour. The people who were doing 40 were now doing 37. The people who were doing 30 were doing 28s. The people who were doing 25 were still doing 25. So that there was not a whole lot of change that we saw as a result of that calming. So that's kind of the background on what we've done out there.
So Kurt, when we talked last, you definitely had your own ideas, which is not shocking because you always do. But do you want to talk about some of the ideas you had for solving this issue on Melvin?
Yeah, just generally, I'm here, I guess, with two hats. I am a resident of West Annapolis, and I'm chair of the Transportation Board for the city of Annapolis currently. And what I wanted to do was, first of all, I'm a believer in data, and to the extent that there are standards that are useful in guiding whatever is done, I totally recommend that the experts consult them. There is certainly a perception that there's a speed problem on Melvin Avenue. I absolutely acknowledge that. That is a perception. Whether it's a reality, which is backed up by data, I don't know. And I hope that somebody who's a genuine expert in the city can speak to that point. The other thing that I wanted to recommend is that we get real expertise on whatever calming method is chosen.
Because I'm getting very annoying.
Hello,
So
can you hear me?
Someone to come.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Shall I continue? Yeah, the whatever method is chosen should be one that has the support of people who know a lot more about this than I do, certainly, and some of the members of the community, perhaps. I wanted to just, there's a principle that I'd like to recommend be considered. Most of these calming techniques work by destroying utility. That is, by putting up barriers or doing something which destroys function. And what I wanted to do was to suggest that at least one possibility be considered among those that are on the table. And that is one that does not destroy utility, but actually adds utility and provides safety not only for cars, but also for pedestrians and cyclists. And so I have a screen, a couple of slides to show you that will tell you what I'm talking about.
I'm sorry, I just have a comment to say. We had a committee in West Annapolis, which I lead for some time. We have 4 members and we have a meeting with the mayor where we already presented a PowerPoint. We have a person, 2 people in the neighborhood who are expert in traffic, who had handled the numbers and that show that we do have a problem here.
Okay.
And I would like them to, I'm trying to connect with them. They are the ones we've been working since January in a group of 5. And as I said, we met with the mayor already.
Excellent.
Fred was with us, and Fred knows that we have presented numbers. We have presented a plan, and the mayor has already come to Annapolis to see what can we move forward to do. So I just get a little annoyed of presenting something totally new when we already have a petition and we already have documents presented to the government. And I don't know if Fred, you can verify that everything, you came here with the mayor and we already, like there is a plan already rolling into creating a new ways to stop the traffic because we do have a problem.
Well, there's a ton of data that we already have, and Lisa is even more familiar with it than I am. We've had speed measurements taken, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 times in the last 10 years, and they have not come out the way residents thought that they would. The actual speeding, part of this depends on where you put the, where you do the measurement, because we've got 2 hills that go down to a level area. And if you put the, call it rubber piping, depending on where you put that, you might come up with a different speed. I was a little kind of scratching my head when I read a couple of the data sheets that Lisa provided. And, but that doesn't mean that there aren't at times people that drive way too fast. I mean, maybe the speed limit ought to be dropped. I don't know.
Fred,
Not suggesting that, but
wasn't the speed study done at the elementary school, which is kind of a natural slowdown spot?
The last one was, yeah, and I agree with that. I did not think that was very valid. I think, as I recall, Lisa, that was done by the private company that Red Flag, is that their name? That does the speed
camera. Yes, the company that work with the APD with the red light cameras. They did a study and they just had the one location.
This is Alex. Can I just give a real brief recap of the data? So I don't have anything to show, but there were speed measurements made in a couple. I think it was 3 locations. We have all the data in a Google Drive if everybody wants to look at it. But for the most part, the metric that's used is the 85th percentile. So as long as 85% of the people who pass there are below 7 miles. I forget exactly, 7 miles over the speed limit. Then it's not really considered a speeding issue. So that said, there are outliers, and they're not a lot, but there are people going 40, as much as 40. I think the highest one was 44 miles an hour. And the opinion of the people in the neighborhood, especially the people who live along Melvin, is that the people we have to worry about are the outliers. So most people are being responsible and driving, 22 to 27 miles an hour, which is, I could argue that that's a little fast when there are kids around, but anyway, that's the speed limit. But what people are mostly worried about are the outliers. And so that's, 2-3 cars a day that are driving very fast, because all it takes is, one kid to wander into the street and somebody gets hit at 40 miles an hour, they're probably going to be killed. So that's the kind of thing that really generated this discussion. And what a lot of us feel about that is we need to stop even the outliers. And the methodology for doing that was by placing what I call some friction in the road. So a roundabout, a chicane, whatever methodology you want to use. But these are things that essentially provide friction, in that if you don't navigate them slower, you're going to hit them. And that's, that's really what gets people to slow down, is the fear of hitting something. We've already done the trick, the visual trick on Melvin, by adding the bike lanes to visually narrow the road, to make it feel like it's not as wide. But there are those outliers. So the concern really is about the outliers. So anyway, that I hope, Maria, I summarized kind of where we all are on that.
Alex,
You are the expert.
Alex, thanks very much.
Locations that you had in mind for the traffic circles or traffic calming, or whatever mechanism that you all had in mind, because it sounds like from Maria that there's a plan that's been developed.
Yeah, we discussed the 3 locations of Tucker, Tolson, and Shiley. Those are basically the three intersections in the middle of the neighborhood. And due to the geography, at the circle at the far end of the neighborhood is high, and then up at Annapolis Street is high. So as you're coming, down those hills, you tend to gain a little bit of speed. So I think it should be, if you're only going to put one in, it probably would be at Shiley, because that's smack dab in the middle. If it were up to me, I would do it on all 3 intersections, but that may be a little too much friction.
Cost prohibitive.
So, or, these are things that could be done as trials. Maybe do one trial in one place in the middle, see how it goes, and do something cheap with curbs and some gravel, which is mostly labor and not materials, and then do speed measurements and sort of see where the outliers are.
Alex, this is Kurt Riegel. I just wanted to complete my thought before you move on to this. And if it is traffic circles that the experts and the community go with, that's fine. But I did not want to drop one option that I think delivers the utility that you're after. In my view, the painted lines for the 2 bicycle lanes do not, in fact, present a visual signal that slows traffic. It looks like a wide open superhighway, and I think that's part of the cause for those outliers. But I just wanted to show a couple of slides, and so that you know how this kind of thing has been done in other places. It's the so-called cycle track. If I could just show you the configuration. Can you all see that?
Yeah, Kurt, we're more than happy to take a look at those.
Great. Let's just look at these, and then I'll get out of your way. But this is the cycle track in one.
Your screen share dropped. So if you want to try again.
Yeah,
I will do that. Can you see that?
Yes.
it's a little small, but I can see it.
All right. And here's a larger one. Here's a somewhat
No.
larger one, but you see the idea is that the parked cars themselves present a barrier.
Sorry, but we are
Just
not
seeing
seeing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
can you open the file?
I think it's the
I think
wrong
that-
screen.
Yeah, you're showing your other desktop screen.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
yeah.
I'm so sorry. We'll try it one
Okay.
last time. Screen 2. Can you see it now? Share?
There
There.
it there we go.
Okay. There's a lane of parked cars here. The traffic lanes are here, and the bicycle and pedestrians are to the right. So the traffic calming signal is provided by the narrow traffic lanes. The barrier provides safety for pedestrians and cycles. And the final thing that I want to show you is just a mock-up of what Melvin Avenue might look like. This is just a first picture, but the idea is that you would create a parking lane, you would have a narrower traffic lane, which sends the signal together with the cars that would hopefully slow things. And then you've got protected cycle and pedestrian route over here. The two bicycle lanes that are presently there would disappear. So this is one option that does not destroy utility. It sends a signal that would slow traffic, and it provides additional safety for cyclists and pedestrians. That's the option that I just wanted to introduce for discussion. And that's all. Thanks very much.
Kurt, I have a question. Does the bike traffic go in both directions in the cycle lane?
Yes.
Okay. And there's enough space for two bikes to pass each other?
I think so, but that should be verified. This is an option that needs to be checked out.
Yeah, I think
We're talking,
you'd need probably 8 feet to make that safe.
Yeah, the experts know, I don't.
Well, I would just like to mention a little bit of the background. I know Kurt just presented that to all of you. I think that since the beginning of the year, there was a consent in the neighborhood to put a group of people who will work on this issue. And like the idea of Kurt was presented by the members who voluntarily wanted to work with the group. At the end, this is what Alex and another two people in the group we represent. We were about 21 people who decided to work for the West Annapolis, and 4 of us leader the group, and then ended having a meeting with the mayor, thanks to Fred. All of the idea that you just mentioned, Kurt, was mentioning that, but we all discussed about what were our thoughts. We request for the neighbor. I listened to the gentleman who started the meeting saying that 10 years ago, there was so many issues by some residents of the neighborhood when speed stops were trying to set in the avenue in Melbourne. So for that point, we collected about 210 signatures in the neighborhood of the willingness of everyone to try to find a solution to the speed problem, and more for the new residents of this neighborhood. I have to say that West Annapolis, the majority of the people, we are new residents here. There is a neighborhood with a lot of kids, and this is why we just got all together, signed a petition, and decided to lead a group which will take care of trying to find the best solutions. And I do not have the presentation here, but I could make sure that all of you receive a copy of the presentation that Alex proposed, and that we presented to the mayor after different type of analysis and consultations. So I just wanted all of you to know our background as a West Annapolis group of neighbors who were looking, and we are still working hard to try to find a solution.
Yeah, if I can chime in a little on that. So I was in the neighborhood, I had just moved in when that trial had happened, and just to reinforce what Maria said, it's definitely a different time and a different era and a different set of people with different concerns. So while that prior experiment didn't work out well, just different conditions, and also it wasn't socialized very well, and that's one of the lessons we've taken to heart in this activity, is to, before we even brought it up with the city, is we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to have that kind of pushback if something were to be done. So we've done a lot of groundwork, thanks to Maria and the rest of the folks involved, have gotten buy-in by a large majority of the neighborhood on that.
I wanted to, though I'm not particularly in any way entrenched in the in the neighborhood, so conversations or particularly have say on this, but I wanted to share something really quick because I got excited when you all were talking about examples of calming. And can I show you something that I saw in Baltimore recently, and I snapped some pictures of it? Do you all object to that? Okay.
No, go right ahead.
I'll do it really fast. But I thought it was really interesting because there were a lot of children in this neighborhood, and it was, a residential neighborhood, but also had some cute little shops. So, can you all see that?
No.
Hold on. Oh, here we go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this was along the side of the street where there was kind of parking and in between cars. It wasn't per se a bike lane at all, but there's like a little bench and it's painted, and and there's a little barrier. You can't really see it because of the angle. But this is the crosswalk part. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool because I know that the barrel idea really didn't take hold, and I know there wasn't community buy-in on that. But this is kind of like a nuanced version of that. It's not really a roundabout, but it does create a bit of an island, a safe island. I grew up on that side of Annapolis, right across the Severn River Bridge, and I know exactly what you're talking about. So, this would be interesting in terms of a color variation, even. And the last one, and then I'll be quiet. But I wanted to show you this also. I think I already showed you that one. Well, that's not what I wanted to show you. Yeah, so I showed you all of them, and there's that, and then there's another one that shows a car crossing down the street, but it does calm a little bit. So I'll be quiet now, but I just wanted to share that. I thought that would be cool.
Thank you for sharing that.
Saint
And
Alex,
I think
have
that's
your presentation.
One at a time, please.
Okay, so I'm off, right? Hopefully. Is it off? Is my screen off?
Nope, still up.
Okay.
There
All
you go.
There you go. All right, I'm quiet. Thank you all.
Thank you, Will.
I just wanted to say to Alex that I have his presentation. If he wants me to show it and let him know which page I am, if he wants to talk a little bit about what we presented to the mayor.
I think that would be great.
Sure, go ahead and share that.
Give me
I'll just quickly chime in to say thanks for showing those pictures that seem to be kid oriented, which is definitely something to keep in mind because we are a neighborhood that has a neighborhood elementary school, and a lot of the kids that are out and about in West Annapolis are on their way to or from the elementary school on Melvin Street. So, and that's one of the main reasons why the neighborhood is so concerned about the traffic. So that was super relevant, and thanks for sharing it.
Yeah, I think another issue that's very context sensitive here is that one of the issues with Melvin is that it's very, very long and very straight. And I think even with narrow lanes, I think people, again, the outliers who want to drive fast will drive fast. There's not so much traffic that there's always somebody coming the other way. So somebody wants to drive fast can still drive fast by straddling the double yellow and driving fast. And that's why, as much as I love the idea of a cycle track, and I really wish we could find a place in Annapolis that we could do that, because I think that kind of bike infrastructure is fantastic. I think what's really important in this context is there needs to be something physical in the way that outlier who is willing to straddle the double yellow line because they want to go 40 just physically can't do it because they're going to hit something. And I think that's because we're talking about the outliers. That's probably the only way we're going to deal with the outliers. Other calming methods work very well for, people maybe just, not paying attention or whatever. But those really aren't the people we're worried about here. We're really worried about the outliers. So,
Alex, I want to make sure, can everyone see my screen?
yep.
Okay, so I can move it if you want to, or you let me know what page do you want to be, and I can.
So we
present
can
it.
see your screen, but your document's not open yet.
Are you seeing my screen?
We see your desktop, but not.
And now I have to press, I'm sorry, I'm new with this one. I just need to put, press new share. Oh, no, resume. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry.
Or just, if you have the PDF open, just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just
And
double click on it. And,
it is open. Oh,
maybe move it to a different monitor, or
can
you
you
have a
see it?
double. No, we don't see it.
We can see your screen, but not the document itself.
Okay, I'm going to close.
If you open the document and then share a tab and select that tab, then it should show up.
How can you see? You are screen sharing. Can you see it now?
No. So I'm going to take you down for a moment.
Yeah.
So if you want to open the document on your computer in the background and then go back to screen share, and when you share your screen, it'll give you the option of sharing just that document and or that program, and it should show them.
Okay, the document is open, and now I go back to my meeting.
Or you can email it to me and I can show it.
Lovely. Let me. Okay, document is open. Do you mind to send me your email and I email it to you?
Yes, I'm the person who sent you the link to the meeting, so you should
give me 1 second. I am so sorry.
No, that's fine. Take your time.
Okay, no, I'm gonna do this.
I just sent you a blank email, so you have it right up top.
Okay. Rebecca, I am sending you this email right now. Sorry, my internet today is very slow. You got it.
Not yet, but I'm sure it'll come through in a moment.
Did you?
No, not yet.
Okay.
It actually came to me, but I will go ahead and forward it to Hillary.
Actually, I dug in while we were waiting. I dug it up so I can just share it.
Oh, excellent.
Thanks, Alex.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So as I mentioned, these would be the three likely spots. Again, this is Tucker, Tolson, and Shiley. So Tolson is the one in the middle. So the thought that I had was either mini circles or speed humps. So when I say speed humps, I don't mean the ones that are a foot wide and 6 inches high. I'm talking about the humps that are probably 4 feet wide and 6 inches high, and they exist in a variety of places around the county. I'm not sure there are any actually in the city, but there's a bunch of them in the county. So speed humps.
We normally don't do speed humps or bumps.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
But that was an idea, and they could be placed at the sidewalks, and it helps raise the sidewalks up. But I'll skip by those because I know you guys don't like to do those. But so we talked about mini circles, and these would be 10, maybe 15 feet in width. And they could have signage, they can have plants in them, they could be done with curbs initially, and then if the data show that they're successful, they can be done when funds are available, in a more permanent way. So I just did a rendering something like that. So it's in a way it's very similar. If you see behind this, you see we have some temporary cross, or I don't know what these signs actually say, it's near some of these crosswalks. It's essentially a larger version of that, and it makes somebody who approaches this intersection have to slow down. They don't have to deviate much, but they have to deviate enough that that's going to get their speed down to 25 miles an hour. So
Alex, this appears to oblige drivers to swerve into the bicycle lanes. Do I have that right?
Yes, that is a downside for sure. So anyway, that's where we are.
So Alex, our thought was that we would do a temp, and I think you mentioned it as well, a temporary sort of test circle first to see what the impact on travel speed would be, and see how the neighborhood reacts to them, and if there seems to be support, and if they're actually effective. We did that over, and Lisa was the project manager over in Admiral Heights for an intersection there that we put a circle, and you may remember, I don't recall the names of the streets now.
Yeah, it's right off Cedar Park.
Yeah.
Cedar Park, Sampson Place, and Porter Drive.
Yeah, Sampson and Porter, and left them there. They actually stayed there probably longer than they should have, just because we weren't able to replace them. But they eventually got replaced and beautified, and they turned out nicely. So our thought was that we would do something like that in these locations rather than installing something permanent right off the bat. So is that kind of what you guys were thinking as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we're certainly cognizant of the fiscal situation, at this point in time, and would no way expect any real money to be spent to do a test like this. And like I said, the curbs and some gravel and stuff that you can scrounge out of the maintenance yard with some labor, I think is very, very warranted. And then we take some more measurements and see where we are. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And we learned something.
Dave, I've warned the neighborhood that not to expect a finished product right off the bat, that it would be something probably not terribly attractive, but it would be a temporary, for the very reason you just said.
Yeah, it would be a sort of a proof of concept. So Alex, right. Were you thinking of starting with all three immediately, or phase them in, maybe do two and see how that works, and then add another one maybe to see what effect the third one would have?
You know, I think probably starting with all three, maybe a little much. You know, I think the hill that goes by the school is pretty steep, and I think that's where people tend to gain a lot of speed. So, you know, if you were only going to do one, I would say put it in the middle. If you can do two, I would say Tucker and Tolson.
Tucker, but that's right for the
right at the school
where the teachers park. I mean, that to me is not a. I mean, I would have said Tolson and Shiley, hands down, even though they're consecutive blocks, but it slows people down over a relatively speaking, protracted period of time. And
well, I'm just.
You're still right by the school. You're in a 15-mile-an-hour.
I'm only reacting to times that I've been driving with friends who are not mean people, who just are not that sensitive about speed. And by the time they get past the school at Tucker, they're going 40 miles an hour. And I reach over and want to smack them. So, I mean, so again, that's just my opinion. And I think based on the grade going by the hill, going by the school, it's very easy to pick up speed there. And I think people tend to carry that speed down the street. So that's why I would suggest putting one there. But if there's only going to be one, I would say, split the difference around and put it in the middle at Tolson.
So earlier, two different people talked about the problem last time we tried to do a test being outreach to the community. So what are some ways that you think we can make sure that people know what's coming and that it's temporary and that they have opportunities to comment? I think that's an important step in this process.
Yeah, we have now a well-organized group led by Maria. We have support of the WACA board. So I think, through the official channels of the board, our email list, and, I've suggested that especially people who are not fans of email, and it's a little hard given the COVID at the moment, but that we walk up and down, we get a group of people together to walk up and down Melvin and say, here's what's going to happen. Just wanted to give you a heads up, explain the rationale. But these are things we've all talked about at our meetings on this subject. Yeah. And so I think, there are enough people that are willing to do that legwork to socialize it.
And I think the petition was a good groundwork that was laid, in that Maria and the team already circulated. And I think Maria said there were more than 200 signatures, and our neighborhood's not so huge, so that's a lot of people that have already read the petition and signed in support of it. So between that, the email, the Facebook, and door knocking would be awesome too. I think we could maybe do a better job than what was done 10 years ago when people complained.
I would also like to add that when we start this group and when we start communicating with everyone, and before I continue, I live in Melvin Avenue. I am one of the persons who have chased cars, stopped cars, and because it's crazy how fast they go. I talked to Wardrobe community, who the president of the organization there has talked to me also, saying, make sure that you let everyone know that we support your idea. They are also part of this Melvin issue. So this is something that we all are not just giving ideas. We are working where I try to talk to everyone. And as Alex said, I do not know much about traffic, but what I am trying to do with the whole neighborhood is to make them conscious that we really need to do something. Because COVID, we have a lot of kids now in the street. The kids are all the time playing in their bikes, trying to do different activities. And it has become an issue because Melvin, the cars go so fast. And then we have all of these kids moving around. So we try to contact the community constantly. The group that we create, we are all the time talking, and we are trying to set up different responsibilities to different people. For example, Chip, who is one of the people in this neighborhood who knows a lot and who knows a lot of the neighbors. He took care of the paper. When we signed the petition, he brought paper petition to the ones who do not use email. So I just want all of you to know that we will make sure that everyone in the neighborhood knows and agrees, and that we hear everyone. This is not just something that one person is working alone.
That's true.
If I could, I think that I would suggest that the group decide on how they are measuring what is a successful implementation. I heard, I think Alex sort of mentioned that they were trying to eliminate the outliers, and I would caution that might not be possible in any system that you build. That you will always have bad actors who, you know, are going to flaunt, you know, the laws and not comply and speed. And for the pilot to be sort of you know, rooted in some kind of a scientific basis, you have to agree on what makes it a success. Are you looking to reduce the 85th percentile speed? Or is there some other metric that you're trying to use to gauge whether or not the pilot is successful?
I would say,
have you guys thought about that?
Okay.
we haven't thought about details yet, but I thanks for the prompt, because I think that's really important too. So I think reducing the number of outliers is one, and also reducing the 85th percentile speed. But I can look at some metrics, and because we have a fair amount of data already, we have something to compare to.
Alex and Maria, I wanted to jump in on and from something that I've heard that might be helpful. One is some of the other projects that I've seen actually include the neighbors or impacted people of community members, and not just the development or conceptual part, but in also the implementation. So as you saw in some of those colorful pieces, like they pick out the colors, they pick out, you know, what type of shrubbery or, you know, whatever. So one good part in terms of engagement is to, on your end, which I'm sure you're already doing, but actually let them have some ownership in it, so that then if it's not successful, it won't be on the terms of othering its lack of success, right? So it may be more successful. The second thing I wanted to just bring out really quickly is, have you all talked to the county school system at all about about recommendations they might have, or what they can put towards, you know, mitigating student safety or supporting student safety? Like if there's funds or help, or they have ideas about how to do it around the school. That's all there.
I have not. I think that's something that somebody above my pay grade probably needs to do from the city. But
I think
contact.
I think that Lisa, you've dealt with the schools a lot across the city on issues such as this. Can you give some insight on what their position normally is as far as helping with these safety issues?
Sure. They usually defer to the city, although I will say when the new Germantown Elementary School was constructed, it was originally on Cedar Park and it moved to Windell. We needed some additional sidewalk to be constructed to make a continuous walking route for the children. And we teamed up with the county actually, because they had a pot of money for school sidewalks, and they shared the cost with the city too, and we used their contractor. But literally, I forget what the total linear feet was. It was half a block on Windell and around to the old school, just connected the two schools basically, and it was $60,000, and the city shared the cost on that. Otherwise, the schools have not provided any money or thoughts on how to improve safety. we already have all the crosswalks in place around the two intersections along Melvin at Annapolis and Tucker for the children, and they're signed. We established the school zone by putting the beacons in place along Melvin, close to Ridgely, and then I think it's beyond, it's closer to Tolson, the intersection of Tolson, that reduces the speed during arrival and departure times. The city installed that. One thing I just wanted to add, I know we're in listening mode tonight, but the one of the proposed locations for the traffic calming circle is at Tucker Street. And one key consideration is when the school was renovated, they moved the main entrance of the school from Annapolis Street to Melvin. And so the school bus drop off is along Melvin Avenue between Annapolis and Tucker. And the school buses arrive from Tucker, not behind the school, but on the other side of the street. And so it might be difficult for a school bus to make a left from Tucker onto Melvin with a traffic circle at that intersection. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think that the input that they would have would be about how it might impact the bus routes and the pickup, possibly the pickup line that forms.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the only input they're going to have on that.
Let me add something to what Lisa's just said. One of the things with Germantown and that sidewalk was that the way the county does that is they had, or at least they did when I was there 100 years ago, they had a program for off-site improvements, which was run out of their Department of Public Works. So if you needed additional sidewalk, the Board of Education didn't build it, Public Works built it as an off-site improvement. When they came to the city of Annapolis, they did not have, Annapolis Public Works doesn't do that. They were in the city, so the county Public Works didn't do it. So we wound up, again, as Lisa said, partnering with them to extend that sidewalk around. However, when they built the new Annapolis, the West Annapolis Elementary School, we specifically asked them to install an island at Annapolis Street and Melvin Avenue for that crosswalk there because of the speeding and because we wanted a safety refuge for the students, and they refused to do it. We went back to them any number of times, but they are the Board of Education and they kind of do whatever they want to do at the end of the day. I would echo what Lisa just said about Tucker Street. We have put in crosswalks. We start putting a circle in there. We would probably want to consider moving the crosswalks back a little bit so that they're not in the path of any vehicles maneuvering around the traffic circle, regardless of however big it is. What may be of value to think about putting there is some reduction in lane width by installing 20 feet of curbing in a center island, small center island, so that we could get down to about a 10-foot lane. That would get where Alex has talked about with impediment in the traffic, in the width. It would also, you could still have the bike lanes that went through there. You might lose a little bit of parking. And you wouldn't then interfere with the turning movements because you'd set it back somewhat with the turning movements of the buses or interfere with the crosswalks in that area. So that may be an alternative we would want to, or you all would want to consider. They've got something similar to that going up into Indian Hills.
I was going to say, in terms of traffic calming devices, the different types of devices, some of the experience that we see in the city is, for example, chicanes on Bay Ridge, that any type of traffic calming that requires cars to divert from that straight path. I've seen in the 10 or so years that I've been doing the traffic, and I hear from people complaining that people actually try to speed up and see how fast they can take those curves. And so sometimes those traffic circles create that kind of a situation almost as a challenge. Just something to consider. An alternative measure, though, would be to build what we call chokers, where you can bump out the curb for, say, the width of the parking lane. It shortens the exposure of people when they're crossing the crosswalk to only 2 lanes of traffic. We do have an example. Most recently, we constructed at the Eastport Elementary School on 6th Street. They had a crosswalk across 6th Street right adjacent to Bay Ridge Avenue. And you had a lot of cars that would speed up. There was a dedicated right turn lane onto Bay Ridge and a through lane, and a lot of people would speed up after they came over the bridge in the right lane, but ultimately wanted to go straight. And there was concerns with even with a crossing guard present, cars speeding by. So we moved the crosswalk to the other side of Bay Ridge Avenue and basically built an island in the parking lane. So if you were in that right turn lane, you were forced to turn right on Bay Ridge Avenue. And I can say that I did observe after that was built, it just narrowed 6th Street to just the 2-way traffic. We didn't reduce the actual travel lanes, but I can tell you cars, every car that goes by, I saw their brake lights come on in both directions. So it physically constrained the width of the roadway to just the 2 travel lanes. It provided a refuge for the children on the island to be closer to, and would only have to cross the two lanes of traffic as opposed to 3, the parking lane and the 2 lanes. So that might be a type of traffic calming you might want to consider on Melvin, where you have that physical narrowing of the roadway. Any type of constriction like that, people do tend to slow down.
So everybody know where she's talking about? It's right behind the parking lot at Blackwall Hitch.
Yes.
Basically, that Bay Ridge Avenue and 6th Street. They've effectively blocked off a lane. If you're in the right lane, you have to turn on Bay Ridge Avenue, or wait for the left lane to clear. And I agree with Lisa. From what I can tell, it's been very effective.
It's right before the slalom when you make that right, and then you have to go through various cutouts, because that's my neighborhood. And I know the signs get hit quite a bit. Even this morning, I saw well, actually took pictures and talked to someone from Public Works, whom I know, and he was saying, people hit the signs often, but they're being replaced. And I think Michael could probably speak, and actually David could speak to the efficacy of the calming effects of the cutouts along there. Like, it actually slows traffic, right? Because people have to almost come to a stop to turn and to go further down Bay Ridge, right?
Right.
Unless they have skis on.
Yeah,
Okay. Go ahead.
I built those that you're talking about on Bay Ridge, and again, they worked well, but we continued to see speeding down there. I think that, because, as Lisa said, they get around them and then they hit the gas.
I was talking specifically about the one that's actually on 6th Street, right where you turn on Bay Ridge.
Yeah, that's correct. That's the one Lisa was speaking about. I think that William was speaking about the ones on Bay Ridge Avenue.
Okay. All right. David, Mike, what do you think? What's the next step?
So Alex, would you be sort of the technical point of contact for the group? So as we start putting together some thoughts and ideas and sketches, we could work with you and others from your group, whoever you think is appropriate, so we can.
Well, Maria's the one that has headed up the group so far, so she certainly ought to be part of it.
Yeah, but I'm certainly willing to be the technical point of contact.
The other thing,
sure.
So we'll reach out. Sam and Lisa and Mike will start, putting together some sketches. We talked about a few ideas when we were out there. back in November about what that might look like, and we can nail down which intersections are going to receive it, and just work through that, and then and figure out a schedule to get them up. Yeah, I was glad to hear that Wardour has been contacted, because that's the tough community in this, right? They don't benefit from this, but they suffer the most because they travel the entire length of the street. So we need to get to them, or they will be very happy.
I can make sure that I will talk to them as soon as we finish today. I will send an email, but I can make sure that they will contact you if you want, and they show our support, the support that they have with West Annapolis, with the neighborhood, that in a way that we need to all stop. And actually the petition that we sign and provide to the mayor, we also have a lot of people for Wardrow sign it. So this is a joint project that we all have, and that we all are trying to find out a solution. But to your point of contact, I think Alex is the expert in this matter for the neighborhood, and he always comes with great ideas.
Well, interested party anyway. I wouldn't use the word expert.
Yeah.
Well, David, I'd like to be on the list too, obviously.
Okay.
Look, I'm the first one that's going to get yelled at, so I might as well make sure that I have enough information.
What's your phone number, Fred? I'll make sure that I pass it on.
Yeah. Yeah, don't call me. Call his name's P-A-O-N. Yeah. Okay.
So Mike, you all can reach out to Alex and get together and start putting together some ideas for what this is going to look, the temporary is going to look like, and what the.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? Was it said early on that there was some data collected, that the community had collected data? I was curious on speeds.
We have the data, Lisa, that you actually sent to me.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
And
The data from the red light camera company, or data
camera, both the camera, and so we have the actual numbers from the camera and from the sensors that were placed in 3 locations. So I mean, if you probably have that on file someplace, but if you don't, I can refresh your memory.
No, I have it.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Any of the participants have any questions? Okay. Was there a chat on this? I can't seem to raise it up.
There's no chat anymore. It's been removed.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. We will be in touch. Dave, I can use my email list that I have, that I send out my agenda advisor on every 2 weeks. And you can add that to, if that'll help, contact some people. Don't know how many in West Annapolis are on it, but probably 40 or 50. At any rate, I think we can end it if there are no other questions, no other discussion. Anybody?
I guess just one thing for Hillary, in terms of being able to contact Alex or Maria, would we get emails from you, contact information from you?
I have everybody's contact information.
Okay, great.
On this call. And myself and William from the mayor's office are here to help in any way we can. So I can help you with getting that information out to some of the surrounding communities and anything else that I can assist you with.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can offer in putting together the email of the 4 people that at the end we meet with the mayor and with Fred, which is Alex, and another 2 members of the neighborhood. And we are the ones who are leading this effort, and we can help in any way that you guys need it.
Okay, terrific. All right, we'll use Hillary as our liaison, and we'll be in touch with the right folks.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.